Nice to see you back again.
Give it a microphone.
We're very lucky here today to be introducing to you Peter Hall and his colleague Claire Wilson for the community fundraisers from Little Havens Children's Hospice, which is the only children's hospice in Essex. Now Peter's going to give you a very interesting speech and looking and listening to what he had to tell me, his journey to this position is quite a touching journey. So,
thank you. Lovely. Turn myself on, and it's nice to get a ripple of applause. No, actually, even before I said anything. That's really wonderful. It's lovely to be here, and I'm glad that the Mid-Atlantic weather bomb hasn't made it to Essex yet. So that's good news. So thank you on behalf of Claire and I for your warm welcome and hospitality. I was just talking to President Bragg and others, and I was trying to work out when I last came and spoke to the club when you were at the dearly departed West Lodge, I think, so that might have been 2 or 3 years ago. And actually, as part of my preparation for coming along today, I thought, well, actually, I just need to remind myself of what an incredible job Rotary do in the local community, and specifically what you do for Little Havens. And you know, since before we opened our doors, back as far as 1997, we opened our doors in 1998, you've raised almost £17,000 you've donated to Little Havens. So I think that's fabulous. And in fact, I don't want to kind of tempt fate or wishful thinking, but with the cheque I believe that we're led to receive today, that may take it to that total anyway. So that's wonderful that you've given us all that support over so many years. So thank you. While I was having a look as well at just some of your history, I spent some time looking at your website, and I was really impressed, and in some ways not surprised, because I've been fortunate enough to visit a number of clubs in the 1240 district around Essex over the years. I've been part of the hospice for about 14 years, and I'm going to share, if I may, for just a few minutes, a little bit, as Christine alluded to, about my journey to Little Havens. I'll share that with you a little bit later on. But in recent years, I've been to a number of clubs across the district, so I know that you're very much about service above self, and you're very much at the heart of the community. It's not just putting your hands in your pocket, which is great for charities like us. We want those donations, but I know you're out there on cold winter nights, you're doing collections, you're supporting other organisations, and you're knocking on doors as well. And that don't get any easier, does it? Particularly as we get older. It's really hard work. So maybe I just want to kind of say to you guys, and ladies, be encouraged by what you're doing. On those days where you're thinking, oh, I could be sitting at home having a nice glass of whiskey or something. Actually, we really do appreciate all the hard work and support that you do on our behalf and other charities. And I was impressed to hear, I know that you organised, it was a ball for St Francis earlier in the year and raised about £7,000, is that right, Brian? That's amazing. A walk, sorry, it was a walk that you do, which is fantastic. And I was having a look at the latest press on your website from St Francis's Day in November as well, and I think so you guys came along. So it's great to see all the work that's going on. And I would encourage you to keep supporting your local adult hospice, which is St Francis, who support, as you know, adults and families living with life-limiting illnesses from the Havering area. But how many of you were aware that Little Havens is the only children's hospice for Essex? And we support families from Romford, from Havering, from Hornchurch, Cranham. We've just opened a new charity shop in Cranham. I know we were really delighted to welcome Jeff and Brian along a few weeks ago to the opening of our new charity shop in Cranham. And there's a real sense of community in Cranham and Hornchurch in this area. So we support, and the reason why we have a shop in Cranham is because we've got a fundraising group, 2 fundraising groups in Hornchurch in this area, and there are families in Romford and Barking and Dagenham that we actively support. So please don't think that because Little Havens is located some 20 miles down the road in Thundersley, between Basildon and Southend, just off the A127. For those of you that know the Rayleigh Weir, we're a couple of minutes drive from the Rayleigh Weir in Thundersley. Please don't think we're somehow kind of not engaged with what you're about in Havering. We are. We're all about supporting children from 0 to 19 living with life-limiting and life-threatening illnesses, whereas St Francis will focus primarily on the journey of adults living with life-limiting illnesses in that area. And we do that, and we've been doing that for 16 years. We opened our doors in March 1998, and in that time we've cared for over 12 1,200 families from across the county. 1,200 families, which is nothing short of amazing. I'm interested to know, just a show of hands, how many of you have been to Little Havens before? So quite a few over here. So well, that's a good number. Those of you that have been, I know we had a visit, and we have a Rotary Day every year, and I would encourage you when you get that invitation, if you haven't been before, to come and see us. Those of you that have been will agree with me, I'm sure, when I say to you that Little Havens is a place of love, laughter and life. You'd be forgiven for thinking that hospices are places that might be a little depressing, miserable. You might have some anxieties about coming to visit a children's hospice and what you might find. And while it's true to say that we don't dress up hospice care as some chocolate box fairy tale experience, because actually there are times of great challenge and emotional upset and difficulty. And there are some tears. But isn't that true of life as we journey through life? I think that's true for all of us. But above all, there are many more times of laughter, life and joy. We're here to make the most of every day and to make every day count. That's what we do with hospices. So whether a child comes to us at the end of their life, we do end-of-life care. That's a very important part of what we offer. Whether that's a few hours, a few days or weeks. And in fact, we care for babies, neonatal babies, which are not expected to survive beyond 28 days. And we're able to care for those families so mum and dad can actually experience what it's like to hold their child, maybe for the one and only time, to walk outside, feel the sun on their face for the first time. And they might not have that opportunity because there isn't a specialist care in hospital or at home to be able to do that. So whether they come for end-of-life care or whether they come for respite, which is typically what our families come to the hospice for. Respite is planned breaks, typically between 5 and 7 days, where mum or dad, or it might be an older brother or sister, or nan or granddad, whoever does the caring, can come and actually just have a rest from some of the stresses and strains of everyday life. We have a number of volunteers that work for the hospice out in the community. We call them community champions, because that's what they are. And they do what I do, except much better, because they're able to stand up and talk about what makes Little Haven such an incredible place. Some of those are parents, they're mums or dads of children that we've cared for or are caring for at Little Havens, or children that have even since passed away. Now, to be able to stand up and talk about your child and the incredible care that they've received from a place like Little Havens takes great courage and bravery. But it's inspirational to hear them talk about the joy, the experience they have. There's one lady in particular, Donna, who I know, whose child we looked after, Megan, at Little Havens, and she said, when I was at home, I used to look after Megan myself because I didn't want her to go to a hospice because I thought that was somehow I was kind of relinquishing my responsibilities as a mother, and I would feel guilty about that. But actually, when we did eventually come to Little Havens, I was so pleased because when I was at home as a mum, I'd be cooking, cleaning, I'd be doing medication, there'd be oxygen cylinders to change, there'd be all the dressing and the stress. She has a hyperactive son who's got ADD, and he was constantly asking his mum for attention, and unfortunately mum couldn't give it because she was so busy with her daughter Megan. So when she came to Little Havens, she said, Peter, it was like feeling a huge weight being lifted off my shoulder. And I was able to sit down with my partner and my mum and dad and my family, and they made us a Sunday roast. And I didn't have to clear up the dishes. Not only could I have a glass of wine, I was able to finish the bottle. I've never been able to do that before. So these things that you and I take for granted with our grandchildren, our children, our husbands, our wives, those simple pleasures of quality family time, we have that in spades and abundance. We encourage that normality. For us, it's about living, not dying. Hospices are all about supporting the family, not just the child in the case of Little Havens, but mum and dad and the siblings. They're the ones that often feel neglected. They can feel really kind of left out because quite rightly all the attention is focused on the child who's poorly, but a brother or sister is saying, what about me? What about me? You know, I need that attention too, and hospices uniquely are able to provide that. When we show people around the hospice, and Claire and I are going back to the hospice shortly to show the captain and his colleagues from Romford Golf Club round Little Havens, they're coming down to see us and they're supporting us as their chosen charity of the year. When we show them around, one of the stories I often say is that we had a little girl who was being cared for, and her brother was on the unit one day and he was in the swimming pool and using all the fantastic play equipment, and we said to him, so Jamie, could you tell us what is it about a hospice? Can you tell us what a hospice is? And he said, well, a hospice is a place where they can't make my sister better, but they do half make her happy. And we thought, how fantastic, because if that's what we do, you know, we might not be able to add days to the lives of the children we care for, but we certainly do add life to their days, and that's what it's all about. So those of you that have been to Little Havens will know, not only do we have an 8-bedded unit which provides world-class care, wonderful care team members and volunteers, we don't have doctors and nurses in white coats and stethoscopes, that's all very scary. And I don't know about you, but if you've spent time in hospital, I'm sure all of us have at some point, you'll know that hospitals are great big places, huge buildings, long straight corridors, the rooms don't feel like bedrooms, so quite scary for a grown-up, let alone a small child. So when you come to Little Havens, the thing that strikes you is that there's a sense, in amongst all that joy and play, there's a sense of real peace and calm and tranquility. You walk into a child's bedroom there and it feels like exactly that, a child's bedroom. There's a flat screen television, there's an Xbox, a PlayStation, there's toys, there's bedspreads that can be tailored to the child. If someone loves Disney, we can put a Buzz Lightyear bedspread on there. They can bring their favourite football team and put that on the wall. They can bring their own toys and presents from home. So it becomes their room. Because actually, when children come and spend time with us at Little Havens, this is their home and they're there to experience a childhood. They're not patients, they're children. So we want them to laugh, play, have fun. We don't tell them or their parents or their families what's going to happen. We don't tell them what emotions they need to feel, because that would be wrong for us to do that. We just give them permission to be however they want to be. And sometimes a child or a family might experience in the same 5 minutes joy, sadness, anger, frustration, but that's fine. We're cool with that. You know, they can kind of do what they want. So not only do we have fantastic bedrooms, we've got 2 teenage rooms which are bigger and ensuite, and there's the bed goes up and down in all of the rooms. Wheelchair users can be safely hoisted from their bed and transferred into the ensuite as well, because many of our children are either semi-ambulant or wheelchair users, so the grounds are completely accessible, the rooms are completely accessible. But in addition to the bedrooms, we've got a hydrotherapy pool, posh swimming pool with bubbles and disco lights and inflatables and loads of fantastic play equipment. We have a sensory room that those of you that have been, I'm sure, will have been inside and seen, which is fantastic. There's a waterbed, there's a beanbag that vibrates and plays music, there's light columns and rope lights and toys which are tactile and very visual to stimulate the senses, because there's nothing more wonderful to see a young child maybe picked up by their mum or dad or a member of the care team, held closely on the waterbed and just lightly stroked with a feather, and to see a smile appear on this young person's face. Those kind of senses of touch are really important. I've been on the unit years ago when I volunteered, and to see a young lady, I think she was 14 at the time, I'll never forget, her name was Chloe, to see her. She'd never been in a swimming pool, this young lady, because she was wheelchair bound, she was really unwell, she was also prone to seizures, epilepsy, and she wasn't able to go to the swimming pool for practical reasons. She could only visit the seaside to get as far as the prom, but what she really wanted to do was be in the water, but couldn't do that for lots of different reasons. To be able to come to Little Havens, be safely hoisted, I have a family with her lowered into the hydrotherapy pool, the bubbles come on, the lights come on, her mum and dad and her little brother was with her, a member of the care team, and this look of fear and apprehension just evaporate, and this great big smile appear upon her face was fantastic to see. I think we call those our Little Havens miracles. They're really important. So that's just painting a picture about the sorts of things that we do. We have complementary therapy, massage, not just for children and family members, but for staff and volunteers. because we have this term we call holistic care. Many of you will know what that means, or what we call whole person care. We recognise that our children, the same as you or I, are emotional, they're physical and they're spiritual. And we address all of those things, whereas hospitals are all about patching up the broken leg, getting them out the door as quickly as possible so they can free the bed up for the next person. We have that precious commodity that hospitals don't have, which is time and resources. So if it means sitting on a bed with a child for 5 minutes or an hour and just to be able to hold their hand, or for one of our volunteers to read a story, is so important. We've got a craft and activity area. We have a crafty kids workshop on a Saturday morning for siblings who are facing the loss of a parent or a child in their family, where they can come and use creative play, arts and crafts, painting, and then when they do that, they start to explore and reconcile their emotions about how they feel. And that's really good. We call it diversional therapy. We have music therapy. It feels great for children to be able to sing or bash a cymbal or a drum or a few keys on a keyboard or a piano. So they do that, use music therapy to help them on their journey. We have dogs called PAT dogs, Pets as Therapy dogs. They come into the hospice and they connect with our children and families and the siblings, because remember, we're meeting the needs of the siblings as well. They connect with them in a way that humans can't. And do you know what? If mum or dad or whoever does the caring needs a break, and let's face it, we all need a break, whether we've got a seriously ill child or not, but if you're caring for someone, and many of you, I'm sure, will have experiences of either caring for a loved one or know someone that cares for a loved one who's seriously ill, it's 24/7, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Physically, emotionally and spiritually draining. So we can give mum and dad the opportunity to have a night upstairs in one of the family rooms. 54 members of the family we can accommodate at Little Havens. We've got a suite of rooms. They all come and stay free of charge. So we care for them as well. And it might be, they might go out for a meal together, they might even go for a weekend. And some families actually will go away and have a week's holiday while we care for their child. And that's great. That's really important because they could never do that at home. The gardens are beautiful, fantastic play equipment. Those of you that have been out in the gardens will know. There's, we just opened a new sensory garden and it looks beautiful. We have a family support team, a bereavement team as well, who are there for the family during, sadly, when a child passes away, and as long as is necessarily after a child has passed away as well. And we have a room right in the middle of the hospice called our Woodland Suite. It's our bereavement suite, and it's where a child can be laid to rest and families can pay their respects for anything up to a week in that special room. Now, that's really challenging and really difficult for families, but it's also vitally important. And all of our families tell us, and research tells us, that they really value that opportunity to spend with their child after their child has passed away. Only hospices uniquely can do that. All of these services don't come cheap. We have to raise, just to provide all the care that we do, £46,000 a week. 46 grand a week is what we need to raise just to keep doing what we're doing. 2.5 million a year. We get a small amount from the Primary Care Trust, about 300 grand currently. So we have to raise in the region of 2.2 million. So no pressure, ladies and gentlemen of the Rotary. But can you understand why we're so overwhelmed by the level of support over so many years? And we want to say to you, please keep giving. I know you will, but we just want to say thank you, because we can only keep caring because you guys keep giving, and that's really important. Just really in closing, as Christine alluded to, my journey to the hospice was initially some 14, 15 years ago as a patient, and then as a volunteer, and now as someone who works full-time like Claire. Now, there's lots of people get involved with the hospice for personal reasons, because it's a great cause anyway. You don't have to have that connection with the hospice to get the fact that what we do is pretty damn amazing, really. It's inspiring. It's all about putting smiles on the faces of those that need it first. But I was living with a life-limiting diagnosis of lymphoma in the 90s. I had 2 transplants, including a bone marrow transplant, and I then developed meningitis and septicemia and other autoimmune disorders. To cut a long story short, I was given the words in late 1998 that there was nothing more they could do with me or for me. So you need to spend time with your children, Peter, who at the time were 3 and 4 years of age. My care was all at Bart's Hospital in London, and prior to that the Royal London up at Whitechapel. I'm delighted to say that against the odds, so I do believe in hope and miracles, even in the most bleakest of situations, is that I went on to make a complete recovery. And I'm now working full-time for the charity, specifically the Macmillan nurses, who have been mentioned already today, the Macmillan nurses employed by Fairhavens, our adult hospice, who looked after me at the most difficult time of my life. And gradually they helped me back on my feet, both physically and emotionally. My way of giving back is not just to work for the charity. I've run the marathon, London Marathon 9 times. I cycled from John O'Groats to Land's End a few years ago. I went out to China in 2004, did a few challenges, and Rotary as a district actually raised 12 grand in support of the challenge that I did 10 years ago. So I kind of very much get what you guys do. But that's the reason why I do what I do, because of the care that I've had, and because we don't have an option to say to our families, well actually it's tough out there, it's a recession, people haven't got the money, so we're not going to provide as much care. That's not an option for us or our families. So I just want to end by saying thank you so much for supporting the only children's hospice for the whole of Essex. Please keep doing so, and if you'd like to come and see Little Havens, please keep in touch, we'd love to show you around. Thank you for listening.
Any questions? Ron, I looked at you before I said it.
Would you like to come and talk to us about your experiences in China?
I would be delighted to. It would be probably in an unofficial capacity, i.e. not as a hospice person, but no, I'd be delighted to.
Okay.
Yeah, that was some years ago. I mean, it's been the whole kind of talk about my cycling and running and other experiences are a separate kind of conversation, talk in itself. So no, I'd be happy to.
Thank you. No quick, Ray.
Yes, it's some years since I went to Little Havens, and I marvelled at the size of the land you have. The garden's magnificent because I'm a keen gardener. But one thing that surprised me that you only have 8-bed units, and you've just said that you still have 8-bed units. Now, I know the expense, I can understand all that, but is 8-bed unit big enough for your I mean, can you deal with everybody who wants to go there?
Well, Ray, thank you for bringing that up, because you reminded me what I did let you all know about is that we also offer a home care service, because it's about affording families choice about how and where they receive their care. So we also deliver incredible hospice care for the whole family, holistically, but in a child's own home if that's what they want, and there's a lot of move to community services. So it isn't just the 8 beds that we do there, we also support families in the community as well. And mercifully, Ray, the answer to your question is, although Claire and I work in children's hospice care every day, the reality of a child not expecting to live a long and healthy life is quite rare. So, you know, I was talking to Christine over lunch. It was all very cheery, kind of slightly melancholy conversation about the fact that we're all living longer, and that actually it's not cancer that's going to finish us off, it's actually just old age, because our organs will fail, but there will be a greater need for organisations like Cancer Research and hospices, because although we're curing more cancers than ever before, we're not meant to quite live as long as we do. So people will develop life-limiting illnesses more and more as they get older, so the need for hospices will only increase. But mercifully, we do meet the need with Children's Hospice in Essex. We also signpost families on, we work closely with Great Ormond Street and other organisations as well.
Can I just follow that? We're currently carrying, is it 120 families?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. So there is about 120 families, thank you Claire, in the community that we actively support in various different ways.
Ron.
Just to add something, since what you've just said hits me home very hard, I haven't got too long to go, so can you talk to us fairly quickly?
Thank you, Marcy.
Another bloody collection.
I've got a legacy leaflet.
Ray, we'd like to give thanks on behalf of the club before I make the presentation.
Thank you. I found it a very inspiring speech. It was nice to have somebody who spoke loudly and clearly, because I'm half deaf and I heard every word, so that was good. Very inspiring speech. As people here know, my wife has been involved with the Children's Charity for the last 20 odd years, and many of the things you've described that you have there, she has at her charity, so I know all about that side of it, and just how good that is for the children. So I thought it was a wonderful speech, and thank you very much. And fellows, would you join me?
Well, I now have the very pleasurable task of presenting Little Havens with a cheque for £300.
Wonderful. Thank you. That does take you to over 17,000, actually. Thanks, Steve. Great. And I'm going to get Claire to take a picture on her phone as well. So.
Could Claire come in the picture as well?
She can. And if someone maybe could take a picture on Claire's phone for us, I'm very happy for her to do that.
No? Where it's coming from?
Sorry?
Okay. Lovely. Yeah, that'd be great.
This cheque is money that was collected.
Put a movie.
Okay.
For the club by one of our
Yeah, we shall
fellows
do
who
that
died
again.
was
Right.
Yeah, that's a good.
Alan Thomas,
Right.
and people very close to have decided that the money that we read would be
Yeah.
distributed to various charities and
Lovely.
managed from the direct result of
Wonderful. Thank you. We'll write and acknowledge that. We also have some of our latest newsletters that Claire's brought in, so we'll leave those maybe on the table at the end. Please do take one away with you. It talks about the work of both Little Havens and Fair Havens. And forgive me, because I know we've got to shoot off in a few minutes, because we've got to be at Little Havens for free. So thank you again for making us both very
You have to draw the raffle.
Oh, raffle
That's
as
the
well.
owner's tax,
Indeed.
please.
It is one colour, presumably.
Yes.
Anyone got 129?
No.
Because it's not that one. It's 170.
Oh, 2 out.
170.
170.
Thank you. Oh, well done.
Oh, not here.
Another piece.
Is it £10 now to spend to start with, Peter? Put away your demand pens.
Middleman, me.
Jim? That might work well today. That worked well today.
Thank you, fellows.
Very good today.
I have to remind members, after next week, we do not meet again until the 8th of January 2015. The menu next week is Christmas menu. The cost is £15. Anybody who doesn't want to be festive, you'll get beans on toast. Still for £15.
They do take away.
Can I remind members of the apologies book? The venue just on the website. Colin?
Yes, all up to date.
All up to date? It's always up to date, Colin. Fellows, could you rise for the final toast? Row to in peace the world over.
Throughout the world.
Have a safe journey. Thank you.